It's really tough to be a general manager in the National Football League. Unless you're Howie Roseman, everyone criticizes your work and everyone just kisses Howie's ass, even though Howie took Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. Who knew? Who knew? But Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is in the second draft at the helm of the Minnesota Vikings, and his draft class in 2023 is not getting the ravest of reviews from some fans, especially fans that are really tied into the draft community. And one of the big reasons is because of the Vikings' relative athletic scores of the class. So now, relative athletic score, we'll get into a description here, but basically it's a score out of 10 and factoring in all of the athletic testing as well as height and weight. So it is an indicator. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not, but we'll get into it. So Ken Lee Platt Mathbaum, who does phenomenal work on RAS, and you saw from a lot of our draft profiles, we reference relative athletic scores quite a bit. It's a very good, quick look rule of thumb. Is like, hey, how does the guy fare against players relative to his position, right? And the numbers do change with input of new data, input of new players, etc. So there you go. But Ken Lee Platt tweeted this out. The Vikings are the only team I posted so far that didn't take a single elite tier RAS player in the 2023 draft. Their NFC counterparts all very heavy in that department. So that's where a lot of people are big mad. Where you look at Jordan Addison, low RAS score 5.95. Blackman as well as Jaron Hall, pretty solid. And then you got Jay Ward, middling, and then Jaquelin Roy, yeah. And then DeWayne McBride. DeWayne McBride probably, he didn't test because of the strained hamstring. He probably wouldn't have been blowing the doors off the roof anyway. Certainly not a Blazer, like he's not a Devin Akane, but probably would have been like the 7 territory as well. So that's where people were really upset. And explanation of relative athletic score. This is from our guy Will Ragg at Sports Illustrated. Simply put, RAS, relative athletic score, is a tool that can be used to show prospect size and athleticism based on how well they tested. That doesn't mean it's the be-all, end-all. Far from it, in fact. It's just one of several pieces of the puzzle of evaluating players, along with film, stats, interviews, cognition tests, and more. RAS is valuable because there is a correlation between size, athleticism, and NFL success. It is extremely difficult to thrive in the NFL with a very poor RAS. Basically, if you're short, if you're light, and you're slow with a small wingspan, it's hard to succeed. So it's good general rule of thumb. Conversely, an elite RAS doesn't guarantee anything. Former Vikings draft pick Moritz Jerome Beringer had a 9.98 and quickly washed out of the league. Also, it was so stupid. So they drafted Mobo with a 6th-round pick, and then they didn't let him talk to the media. It was a whole marketing pick anyway. It was an NFL international marketing pick, but anyways, and quickly wash out of the league. The middle is a gray area. The higher the RAS, the easier it theoretically is for players to have NFL success, but there are so many other factors at play as well. And Kwesi comes from an analytics background, so everyone was expecting him to draft just like his 2022 class, where he drafted generally elite athletes. Plus, we broke down all of these guys generally have a very good 10-yard split in the 40-yard dash. Not so much with the 2023 class, but you look at Lewis Seen, Asamoah, Caleb Evans, Jalen Naylor, Nick Muse, all elite. Booth Jr., if he would have been able to test, because he was hurt during the offseason, probably would have been in the elite category as well. But, like Will said, it's certainly not the be-all, end-all, and some noteworthy Vikings who tested relatively well. So, got Garrett Bradbury, the Grim Reacher, one of the reasons why people loved him so much. His only downfall was really size. Daniil Hunter, super freak. Adrian Peterson, freaky. Brian O'Neill absolutely got after it. Kendricks, Xavier Rhodes, pretty solid. Anthony Barr, average. Which is really interesting considering he was 6'5" and 260 coming into the league. But with Jordan Addison is the one that they point to the most, where Addison, already slight, 5'11", 171, did not run a blazing 40, did not do agility drills, and as well put up a very pedestrian 34-inch vert. So overall, it was not as impressive as, say, like a Quentin Johnston or even Zay Flowers or some of the other receivers in this class who are legitimate super freaks. But Addison, if you watch Addison's tape, like everything about him screams athlete, right? And it doesn't matter if you run a 4.2 40 if you don't have the agility to turn. Then all of a sudden that turns into a 4.7. Versus if you're a guy like Addison who runs a mid 4.4 and can turn on a dime, all of a sudden that 40 translates into like a 4.1. So I think that's what's going on, because it's like he didn't put up all those insane stats over the last 2 years on his own, right? Just by being a small, unathletic guy. And for the Vikings, you're looking at some of their current RASs. So Jefferson, 9.69. Nice. Jalen Speedy Naylor living up to his name. KJ, decent. Thielen 7.52 up there. Jalen Reagor, even though he had elite straight line speed, 6.06. Addison with a 5.92. Diggs with a 5.65. So Diggs is a good example. So if you look at Stephon Diggs, is there anything about him that screams unathletic? And same thing with Jordan Addison. And then Treadwell's in there with a 3.33. That includes Treadwell being very large and heavy for a wide receiver. So that's super interesting. And then you look at some of the elite receivers over the last couple of years. So Cooper Kupp had a 5. He got 5 on it. Devontae Adams, a very pedestrian 6.54 coming out of Fresno State. And Nuke Hopkins, even though Nuke has elite size of 4.94, which if you're Minnesotan, you know is always under a bit of a construction. So like I said, RAS is certainly not the be-all, end-all, but I understand why fans are a little bit upset, especially given Kwesi's analytics background as well as the class last year. I mean, actually, hell, maybe Kwesi is just like, hey, you know what? We drafted all physical freaks last year, and a bunch of them got hurt, and a lot of them didn't get on the field. So we're just going in the other direction. We're just going in the absolute other direction. But you can't tell me you could watch some Jordan Addison tape and tell me he's not an athlete. You can't watch Mekhi Blackmon tape and tell me that he doesn't get after it and is sticky man-to-man outside the numbers. You can't watch Jay Ward film and tell me that he isn't a heat-seeking missile seeking out the football. You can't watch Jaquelin Roy film and tell me he doesn't have man-sized upper body strength. You can't watch Jaron Hall and tell me that he's not a dynamic dual-threat athlete. DeWayne McBride may not have straight-line blazing speed, but his agility, his ability to avoid tackles, break tackles, spin off of tackles, and keep his feet. I think that's a lot more important than just doing some testing numbers at the Underwear Olympics. So, again, I can understand why fans are mad, because fans are mad about everything for any reason. But overall, I'm pretty okay. I'm pretty damn okay with this class, man. But your thoughts are thoughts. A couple fans are super mad about the draft class's RAS. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Once worth of work. Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.